Coming in? Come on, come on.
Okay, Madam Chair, we may begin.
Welcome. It's 5:30 p.m. and I'm calling the January 4, 2022 meeting of the Historic Site Preservation Board to order. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Member Rose,
Here.
Member Miller,
Present.
Member Hanson,
Present.
Member Rosenau,
Here.
Member Kaiser,
Here.
Vice Chair Nelson,
Present.
and Member Chair Huff. You have a quorum.
Okay. May we please have the staff report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, the agenda for this meeting was posted for public review at the City Hall Bulletin Board on the west side of Council Chamber and at the Planning Department counter on Thursday, December 30th, in accordance with established policies and procedures.
Does the board have any revisions to the agenda? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Rose and a second by Member Miller. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. So this time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Historic Site Preservation Board on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Although the Historic Site Preservation Board values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items that are not listed on the posted agenda. There will be 3 minutes assigned to each speaker. Testimony for public hearings will take place a little later at the time of the hearing. Staff, has anyone requested to comment on non-public hearing items or an item that is not on today's agenda?
No, we have not received any requests to speak.
Okay. Okay, seeing no speakers, we will proceed with the consent agenda. This is the approval of the minutes of the December 7, 2021 Hspb meeting. Are there any revisions to the minutes of the meeting of December 7th? Any revisions? May I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 7?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Member Miller and a second by Member Nelson. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
I abstain. I was absent that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so motion passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. Let us proceed to agenda item 2A, public hearings. This public hearing is on the application by the City of Palm Springs for historic designation of El Dumpo Adobe located at 2275 South Araby, and the Araby Rock Houses located at 2350, 2500, 2501, 2540, and 2550 South Araby Drive. May we please have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As noted in your staff report, at your meeting of July 2019, the board put together and approved its 19 and 20 annual work plan and included these projects as part of your work plan. The adobe hosts and the 5 rock houses are recognized as rare surviving examples of the type of early rustic development that occurred in Palm Springs between World War I and II, which often utilized native stone and other locally found materials. The design and the construction of the 4 quote-unquote Hopi Village dwellings also present the creative work of local builder-developer R. Lee Miller. The analysis of the potential eligibility of these various sites begins in your staff report on page 7. The preceding pages give you a little bit of background and explanation about the 5 or 6 sites. And I want to just underscore the differences just so that we keep them all straight. So the adobe is recognized for our purposes of our discussion as HSPB 129. And then the other rock houses are all recognized under, I'm sorry, I told you that just backwards. I'm so sorry to confuse you here. The adobe is 128, okay? And the other rock houses are 129A through E, which go according to the corresponding addresses. So the background information is provided for you there, as well as in the historic resources report that is the basis of my staff report and of the eligibility analysis that you're going to be doing. In the report, you'll see the analysis beginning on page 7, and we go through each one of these 6 sites, evaluating the eligibility of them. Now, I've included, for purposes of keeping the staff report a little bit thinner, some of the analysis in an attached Exhibit A, which is attached to your staff report. And in those, in that attachment is where I've actually gone through and captured the analysis that was made by the consultant, as well as the analysis that we were able to undertake as a part of the site inspections that we were able to do of the 6 parcels. As noted, we were able to see the adobe, we were able to see the rock house at 2350 owned by the Kittlesons. And we saw a couple of the other sites from the access road. And then one of the property owners, Miss Julie Rupp, was gracious enough to allow the board members to see and tour her very fascinating property at 2540 Araby Drive. So in the analysis that you see, we have evaluated each one of them as you go into the appendix and determined in concert with the historic resources report that it appears that each one of these structures does have the potential and meets the eligibility requirements for a potential Class 1 historic designation. The analysis goes on into quite a bit of detail, and I'm not going to reiterate all of that tonight for you, but I will be ready to answer any questions that you may have. In speaking about the 2540, which is the round house, which is owned by Miss Rupp, there is some information that's on page 8 of your the appendix, which goes into a little bit of detail about character defining features. And so if there's any questions on that, I'll be able to answer those for you if they do come up. There has been some public comments that have been received by the city over the past few days, and those have all been forwarded to you for your consideration. That concludes my staff report. Again, what we are recommending is that all 6 of the properties under consideration appear eligible for a recommendation by the HSPB to the City Council for Class 1 historic site designation. Madam Chair, this is a public hearing. I am available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Lyon? Does anyone? Mr. Kaiser.
Mr. Lyon, what is the policy of this board on designating properties that are abandoned and vacant?
What is the policy?
Is there a policy? I
There
don't-
is no policy. You've considered other properties that have been in what I would call abandoned or ruined states, including the
Racket Club.
well, the Racket Club is a good example as well. I was thinking about the oh goodness, the cabin, the Avery Field cabin at the end of San Jacinto Drive. That would be one in which you'd seen one that was a ruins actually. But you have considered others that are in an abandoned state, in a dilapidated state. Another one that was done that way quite a few years ago was La Serena Villas, which had been completely gutted down to the studs. So it's happened before.
Mhm.
Can you refresh my memory on what was the ruling on the cabin, the stone cabin?
The stone cabin was classified by City Council as a Class 1 landmark site.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other questions from the board to Mr. Lyon? Any other questions of the board? Okay, seeing no further questions of staff, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in public comment on this item? If so, please give your name and your address. And please note that you have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Lyon, are there any names that have been submitted?
No one has submitted names, but we do have individuals here who are representing some of the properties. I see Ms. Rupp is here. If anybody who is here as a visitor would like to speak during this public hearing, would you please turn your camera on now and raise your hand? And I don't see anybody raising their hands. Miss Leslie Joe, I see you came on the camera. Would you like to speak at this time?
I just want to speak in favor of all the properties being designated as historic. They really are very precious to Araby Cove. I live very close to all of them, and that's all. I just wanted to. I'm for it. I think it. I actually own an apartment in Pasadena that is under the Mills Act and is protected in an old building that's 120 years old. And I think having it designated as historic is part of what has saved it. And I'd love to see all these buildings saved. So.
And Leslie, is your last name Joe, or is that?
In Alsenz, ALSENZ. And I'm at 2371 South Araby, right across from the rock houses.
I believe you provided a piece of public comment as well, right?
I wrote you an email, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Rupp, I see your camera appears to be on. Did you wish to speak?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, please. Julie, your microphone is off. Can you turn your microphone on?
All right, I have submitted plenty of papers today to you in both the city council to not have 2540 South Araby listed with the other 4 properties. I appreciate that you will hopefully historically designate the 2501, 2500, and 2550 properties, but my property is in litigation with those properties and soon to be with the city of Palm Springs. So it's very inappropriate for you to include me in your proposal at this time. I deny, I 100% disagree, and I am under deed restrictions I've explained all that to you. In addition, the city has not met their actions to protect the 17.36 acres that was donated as part of my purchasing this property. So at this time, I have not had the opportunity to build out because I do not have proper and safe access for my family. I cannot rent my home. I'm losing rents, etc., because of the actions, the criminal actions next door, which is in Superior Court. And if the city chooses to continue to not help me and continue to ignore my SOS cries, I will have no choice but to file a suit against the city. So please remove 2540 from your application. I'm begging you for my health and my family's and my safety. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rupp. Are there any other comments from the audience? Anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? No? Last call.
I do have one more thing to say, that there was other people that supported my decision. And I was thinking that all this information would be read today during this time. Is that not correct? We're being ignored again?
Your public comments that were coming in writing and those from others were all forwarded to the board for their consideration.
We've read them. Thank you.
Okay. So seeing no further speakers on this item, I will close the public hearing. The action is now with the board. Since we have a total of 6 properties under consideration today, may I suggest we deliberate and make a motion on each one individually? So who would like to start with any comments from our board?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
are you looking for comments on each individual item as we go through them now, or would you like the members to speak in general on any of the items? How would you like to conduct this?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll get us all warmed up a bit here. We can go either way. I personally believe, that the adobe at 2275 South Araby and the big Giannini Rock House at 2350, possess, defining historic characteristics, that rise a little bit above, the other 4 dwellings known as the Hopi Village, located at the top of the Araby Cove. The craftsmanship, the design and use of materials on the 2 houses on Araby Drive proper, possess, a high historic characteristics to me. I believe that all of them should be preserved. This is an important vernacular architectural and cultural history of our city. And I believe, they need to be preserved. I don't know that they all need to be Class 1. I certainly support the 2 that I mentioned for Class 1. So who else would like to add something? Member Kaiser?
I would agree with you, Madam Chair. Definitely 2275 and 2350 should be Class 1 historic sites. The others are more troubling to me. First of all, because of condition, even though that has taken, place that Ken told us in the past that they were designated. I think there are rock houses in other parts of the city. We've got one across the street from us on West Vereda Soar here. But that is not designated. It's not been even considered for designation. And I think since I don't know of any other rock houses or adobes, there is an adobe, it's either in Mesa or Movie Colony that I've been in, and I don't think that's designated either. It also is a vacation rental. I think at least the adobe and the 2350 should definitely be class ones. The other ones I'm a little more ambivalent about. So I'm wondering, is there a way to split this apart that we can have these two properties split apart from the other 4 properties, because this is all put together in one recommendation. And we've never had a situation like this before, and so I'm not really sure how to vote on this.
Mr. Lyon.
As we mentioned earlier, I would suggest that you take each of the 6 properties one by one and have your discussion and deliberation about each one, and then make a motion on the first one, and then the second one, and then the subsequent ones, so that you are addressing each one parcel by parcel.
Okay.
Mr. Rose?
Yeah, I just moved to Araby, and I now take that incredible walk. There are a number of walks up the mountain, and it's really incredibly inspirational to see those structures there. And I think it represents, you know, sort of a once in a lifetime view into the history and the beautiful richness and the varying degrees of architecture that enriches Palm Springs. I didn't know they existed. And I think we can be very myopic sometimes about mid-century modernism. And I think that this is an integral part of some super, super important history of Palm Springs. I'm moved by it every time I go up there. And I think one of our duties and one of our special, I think, honors is to be able to sort of take the long view and the important view of the history of this city and the community, and understand that there was a community that existed before us, long before us. And I think this is just an excellent example of it, whether it's perfectly intact or not. The Colosseum isn't in Rome. There are a number of things that aren't. And there is history in Palm Springs about acknowledging and embracing and honoring these kinds of structures that existed long before us. So I guess what I'm trying to say, long-windedly, I admit, is that I have changed my view of all of this, and I really am in support of all these structures.
Thank you, Member Rose, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's amazing, gorgeous, beautiful.
So any other comments, Member Hanson?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Mr. Rose. So I don't need to repeat what he said so eloquently, but I do want to also make the point that particularly, you know, the 5 in question that are, you know, maybe less architecturally splendid, but I think one of the things that's significant about all those, which maybe is diluted a little bit when you're looking at them separately, which I know you need to do that if they're going to be individually nominated, but certainly it is that grouping together and how that area was developed that gives it also a whole nother layer of significance. And thirdly, I'd hate to also, you know, have us mix up the terms condition and integrity. Certainly buildings can be in rather poor condition and still retain a high level of integrity as it's defined, you know, certainly in the field of preservation and the aspects of integrity that are looked at in the report.
Well said.
Other comments? Member Miller?
Yeah, just briefly, I would agree with Member Rose and Member Hanson that even though the condition of the rock houses are not as splendid as some of the other properties, I think they're invaluable to the history and culture of the city, and wholeheartedly agree with everything that Member Rose said about them. And so I'm supporting all of them being designated.
Okay. Thank you. Member Rosenau?
Thanks. Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone right now. Just taking a step back, this was added to the work plan, I think, before I actually joined the board. So it's kind of been on there for a while. And joining this board, I didn't even know these buildings existed. You know, you see the mid-century stuff, you see Spanish. Going to the ARB with the site visit was my first time back up there, and I really didn't know that this whole area existed. So very important part of our architectural history and culture in Palm Springs.
Thank you. So Member Nelson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would concur with pretty much everything everyone has mentioned today. I would also like to add that all of these houses, all of these structures have been on Hspb radar for decades. And of course, they were officially initiated 2.5 years ago as part of the work plan. So given all of that time and interest, I think it is time today to make a decision on designation for all of these. And I would like to concur with Madam Chair about the importance of the cultural aspect as well. I think it's extremely important, given that there have been some questions and issues raised about condition and integrity. I think due to the age of these structures and the uniqueness of them, and the association of most of them with R.Lee Miller, who was not just a builder, but a craftsman and a developer and a visionary. Without him, Arabic Cove would not be what it is. And he did so many things in the city of Palm Springs, way too numerous to mention, but just a handful of them are one of our classroom sites, the Goodlow residence on Indian Trail, a beautiful R.Lee Miller home, a current class 2 residence, class 3, the Reginald Owen House on South Palm Canyon Drive, next door to Morton Botanical Gardens. He did a home for George Brent on East Palm Canyon Drive, which I believe was demolished. He also did the original masonry and landscaping at the original tennis club. So those are just a handful of things that R.Lee Miller did. He was written up in the Desert Sun hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over the years, along with his wife, Helen. They did the original block print for the Limelight News, which was the town's first newspaper. And Lee Miller actually conducted the very first survey that deemed the route that would become the route for the Palm Springs Aero Tramway. He scouted the mountains and checked out all the different possibilities, and he released a survey with 3 routes, and he deemed that that route would be the best one. So he's really a pioneer, obviously, and a very important man. So I think that that is the greater context of a lot of this history behind these houses, is the association with him and the cultural significance. So I trust staff, and I think the report is excellent. I think the research by staff is the perfect complement to the ARG report, which was unfortunately not as strong as it perhaps could have been due to their inability to visit the actual site. So I would be in favor of Class 1 designation for every single property.
Thank you. Member Rose?
Yeah, again, I sound like a broken record, but just staff did just a brilliant job. I mean, amazing. And I think it encapsulated the feeling and the pictures, and it just Well done.
Are there any more discussion or comments, questions? Any further discussions? Okay, seeing no further discussion, may I please have a motion?
I move to designate all the structures as class 1. I think that the spirituality and the integrity of these are invaluable to our community, and so move for class 1 designation for all the structures.
Okay, is there a second to the motion made? Okay, I have a motion by Member Rose and a second by Member Nelson.
Yeah, but I have a comment.
Oh,
So
yes. Okay,
before I officially make that second,
Okay.
it comes with an attachment, which is a question to staff regarding the comment made by Julie Rupp, the owner of the Round Rock House at 2540. She did mention something about a possible lawsuit if we were to go ahead and designate her property as part of this. So I just wanted to check with staff if there needs to be a discussion about that, or any ramifications or anything we should know before we try to include that one in the motion.
I did speak with the city attorney prior to tonight's meeting, and there is no current pending litigation with the city with any of the property owners in question of these 6 parcels. There apparently is some disputes between a couple of the property owners, but none in which the city is party to any lawsuit.
Great. And one more question for Mr. Lyon. If you could just remind me, because there was so much material here, in your staff report with regard to 2540, did your recommendation include all of the outbuilding, the wind wall, the pool, and so forth?
Yes, it did, but it accepted there are some concrete block structures that are sort of scattered around the lower portion of that site, which I suggested would not be necessary for inclusion. Let me just make sure I've got this correct. Yeah. So it was the structures that you just mentioned, I was recommending as identifying if that is a site you choose to recommend, that those would be considered character defining or contributing features.
Great. I agree with that, despite the owner's objections, because it's all obviously important to the integrity of the site. And there's enough left there that they're character defining features. And I think it's important to have them all there together, because sometimes if you take one away, you lose some of the overall integrity. So I would second the motion as suggested in the staff report.
okay. So we have a motion. Oops, Mr. Lyon.
I just wanted to confirm, Mr. Nelson did confirm part of what I was going to ask you to confirm. Mr. Rose, would you be concurring that your findings are based on the findings in the staff report?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion by Rose and a second by Nelson. And is there any discussion? Any other discussion? I actually just have a comment just for clarification and a clear understanding of this property. Is it true that the lawsuit has nothing to do with our review of these historic properties? I just wanted that clarification, Mr. Lyon.
Yes, as I mentioned, there is currently no pending litigation between the city and any of these property owners. There are disputes between the individual property owners, apparently. I don't know the full nature of them, but those other disputes have do not need to be considered in terms of your analysis, in terms of determining whether these sites are eligible as historic resources.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second. So I'll call for the question. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? So the motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Let's proceed to unfinished business, agenda item 3A. This is the City of Palm Springs requesting a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to the Palm Springs City Hall, a Class 1 landmark historic site located at 3200 East Talkwoods Canyon Way. The staff recommendation is to continue this item to a date certain of February 1st, 2022. May I please have a motion to continue this item?
I'll move.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I
Mr.
just want to
Lyon?
provide a bit of information so you understand where we are with the processing of this. At the meeting at which you requested further information, we have sought proposals from historic resource firms, and we have awarded the contract, and we are awaiting for the report to be compiled and submitted to the city. So we are hopeful if we can get this report early enough in January, we should be able to bring this back to your February meeting. If not, we will do one more continuance and consider it at your March meeting, but we will get this back in front of you as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyon. So may I have a motion to continue this item? I'll make a motion to continue the item. And a second?
I'll second.
Oh, we have a tie. Okay, so
Pick one.
I made a motion and a second by Member Kaiser. Any other discussion on this motion to continue? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, a motion passes 7-0. So there's no new business this evening. So let us proceed to discussions, agenda item 5A. Preservation Matters Symposium. So, Member Nelson and Member Kaiser join me in giving a brief report about the symposium. We've titled it Preservation Matters, Historical and Architectural Diversity. We're planning a 2-day program of presentations held at the Convention Center on two afternoons. We decided not to have the second day be all day with a lunch break. It's just this symposium has grown. It's incredible, from kind of a community gathering to a major symposium, with almost 400 expected in attendance at the Convention Center. So we need to work within our resources and our volunteer capacities. So we're thinking that we need to restrict it to just 2 afternoons. And we're looking at, the afternoon of Saturday, April 23rd and Sunday, April 24th. 7 presentations, approximately 7 each day. And then of course, about 10 to 12 tours, as well as a final, get together reception. We hope to have maybe student models on view, as well as the organizational tables. These are the preservation tables like, PS Modcom and the Preservation Foundation, the Agua Caliente Tribe, the Palm Springs Art Museum, Historical Society, and so on. So we've had meetings every month. We have another one coming up next week in which we are going to finalize the presentations and the presenters. And I'm happy to tell you more about the specific topics if you would like. I invite Member Nelson or Member Kaiser to add any comments if you would like. Anything further? Member Kaiser.
I just want to be sure that when this comes out on the website, and we can talk about this later, Ken, but there needs to be something said that at the time of this symposium, that all of the mandated COVID requirements will be adhered to, because I think that's very important with this chaotic time that we're in, is to make people comfortable with, that those requirements will be handled. And I don't know if we go further than the state of California. McCallum just did today, requiring everyone to be vaccinated, no matter what other cards or what other reports they bring in about immunity. Triple vaccination is required of everyone to go in. And I don't know where we will be as a community at the time that this comes out, but I think it's really very important that we make people who would be coming to this comfortable so that we will get the numbers of people that we need after all of this work to show what work we've done.
Mr. Lyon.
Member Kaiser raises a very important point. I suspect we will be hearing more from the city manager and the city council in terms of how the city moves forward with any type of public gathering and public event like this. What I have been hearing is that many of the local events of the season, like the Film Fest and Modernism Week and many other things, are apparently getting canceled. And I do not want to see this event canceled, but I want to manage your expectations that if the city council and city manager determine that we cannot hold this event, then we will have to cancel it. And I'll know more about that as I have conversations with Planning Director Fagg and his conversations with the city manager.
Thank you. Member Rose, did you have a
Yeah.
question?
Well, I think we should lead with that actually, and just qualify all of it by saying, if the circumstances indicate, we're going to lean on abundance of caution and, roll this to a more appropriate time. I think we need to be very diligent and upfront about our concerns and not what Ken said, build people's expectation that this, is slam dunk going to happen. We need to be very respectful and let people know that if the circumstances present itself in any risk, we're gonna lean toward protecting the community.
Correct.
Absolutely. Member Kaiser.
And I think that that's also important, that that each of the speakers have this information and expectation up front. That's how I intend to go back to the people who will be on the tours, to let them know that this is a possibility. The tours could be done totally outside because that's what we look at as, for our designations. But we just have to be sure that everybody's on board with this. And so they won't come back and say, oh, here you go again. We've done this all before. We did this 2 years ago, and now you're pulling the rug out from under us again. I am getting some of that reaction from some of the people that I'm talking to, but I'm being very honest with them. So I can't tell you how many tours we will end up with. If people choose just not to be involved because of the hassle of this, that's up to them. But I'm committed to do the best that I can.
Thank you. Thanks for all your good work and support. Member Nelson.
Of course, I concur with all of that. And given that the event is more than 3 months out, I remain cautiously optimistic. But I do think it might be worth checking with the convention center about a possible alternate date in May, just in case we do come up against the possibility of not being able to do the April 23rd, 24th event, because maybe by May, it would be more of a possibility. So maybe that's something we can have as a plan B, as a backup, because I know that the committee's been working hard and a lot of people in the community are looking forward to this. And hopefully what's going on now will not last too terribly long. But of course, we have to plan for the worst outcome. Aside from that, I'd just like to say what a pleasure it's been working with you and Member Kaiser and Mr. Lyon and all of the volunteers that have agreed to speak and be a part of this symposium, if and when it happens. They've all just been wonderful people, and I feel very confident that many of them will come back or, play along should we have to delay anything. That being said, I think that a teaser is being developed. So I would like to still see us send that out. Just to, keep going with the game plan and remain optimistic that this will work itself out. But of course, if we get the word to stop, of course, that's what we'll have to do.
And that teaser that Member Nelson mentioned is a twizzle, which is a very short, colorful, video that Deborah Hovel is developing that will include images of the majority of the presenters to promote and market the symposium. And so as soon as we have that ready, we'll share it with you and get the marketing and promoting proceeding. So are there any other questions about the symposium, Mr. Lyon?
I just want to take a brief moment and again acknowledge the wonderful foundation that former Chair Dick Burkett has provided to all of you to give us the templates and the lists and the how-to. It's been really invaluable, and I know you all appreciate it as well. At a staff level, we very much appreciate the foundation that he's put before us so we can keep moving this thing forward. Thank you, Dick.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love that Dick Burkett.
I know. Thank you. So be sure to come to the meeting next week, Dick, so you can continue giving us your experience and ideas and so on. So, okay, that completes today's agenda. Are there any comments from the board? Comments?
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a general observation that I know that sometimes members of the community can get very fraught with historic preservation, such as we saw this evening with the property owner. And I think we all keep that at the forefront of our minds. We all respect the owners of these properties. And I think when it comes down to it, we take each one on a case-by-case basis. And I think that's how the action was made tonight, that this was deemed to be so worthy and so important. So it's truly nothing against the owner. This is something that has been on Hspb and preservation radar for quite some time. Also on that note, I think it's important that we as a board and working with staff in the city do more outreach to homeowners and building owners of class 3, class 2, class 1, and those that might not even be classified. Basically just eligible buildings. And even those that do get designation or pending designation, we could send them literature, or for example, we could maybe put the owner of some of these homes in touch with the people who own the Goodlow house, because it's by Early Miller, it's in Adobe, and just give them that common bond so that they know that they have someone to talk to. So basically more about outreach and giving them references and resources to better understand the complexities rather than just their small local level dialogue. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Member Nelson. Very, very well taken. Mr. Rose, did you have a comment?
I wanted to echo Mr. Nelson's comments about the owners. We're sort of nothing without them, and we appreciate their support. I just want to say that, you see something like the rock houses and you actually go up there and you see them, and it just makes me really proud to live in Palm Springs and proud to be a member of this board. I think we do really good work here. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Does staff have any comments?
Just a couple. I forwarded to you by email a day or so ago some updates in some of our informational handouts. Most of you know that when we put up the Hspb booth at Modernism Week and sometimes at the neighborhood organizations, we have a lot of flyers and paper handouts and things and takeaways. But that stuff exists here, in the Hspb archives, but it's not really publicly accessible. And so I took some time to turn those various informational sheets into what we call technical assistance bulletins that help applicants and homeowners and property owners better understand, as Jade was just alluding to, some of the various idiosyncrasies of our own unique ordinance, as well as kind of what it means and what are the benefits and so on. So I forwarded those to you, and they have been forwarded over to staff member David Newell, who's our assistant planning director here in the planning department, and he will be uploading those, I believe, to the historic resources portion of the city website. And to that end, as any of you happen to go forward and think of something that would be of importance for the general community at large, that would be good information to put on the historic resources portion of the city website, send me an email and I'm happy to consider it. The second thing that I want to mention is, Member Nelson, you had asked me to bring back some follow-up information for you on 3 or 4 items that were in, that you had raised questions about last time. And I must apologize, I have not had time to pursue those questions, but I will commit to trying to get those done in the next few days, if not by early next week, to give you some answers on those things, and I apologize.
No problem. One question for Ken, 2 actually. I noticed some paint swatches on the Bank of America, maybe 4 or 5 different colors. Are you able to elaborate on that at all?
That's the color.
That's the one?
That's the one.
Yeah.
It was quite remarkable. I am embarrassed to say that I was part of the decision-making on the current colors on the bank, and they're wrong. Fortunately, as the current efforts by the bank to make some improvements, I asked them to see if they could do some scrapings or something, and I gave them all of the old photographs and things showing them that the bank color was not this cool gray, but rather it was almost a buff tan color. And we were fortunate enough, one of the paint contractors or other contractors working on the building started prying off some of the old cover plates and things, and they found the original color on the building. And that is what that sample that you just saw matches. So I had mentioned to you a meeting or so ago that I will be processing some improvements at the bank at a staff level. And one of them is the approval of that color.
Wonderful. And my second thing was when you mentioned about the kiosks or the booths that we do at Modernism Week and at the Symposium, a thought popped in my head. Because the city owns the Visitors Information Center in the old Albert Frey tramway gas station, and organizations like PS Modcom have a kiosk in there, would that be a place for the Hspb to have a very tiny display? Would it be appropriate? You know, maybe the brochure could be there. Maybe there could just be a poster board that explains what the ordinance is and what the levels of designation are. I just think because it's a city-owned building, it could possibly be an opportunity to have a little informational display.
Let me review that, Member Nelson, with Director Fag, and we'll take it under consideration and let you know what we are able or not able to do. It's an interesting idea.
Thank you.
Don't we have some brochures, some of the printed materials there already? I mean, about, I thought.
I don't know if we have the printed material there, but we certainly do have the orange and the blue brochures, which were recently updated, and those can be put up there as well.
Yeah, okay. Member Rose?
I think Mr. Nelson has agreed to be there 5 or 6 times a week, right? Mr. Nelson, you'll, no?
No.
So any further discussion? Any further? Okay, seeing no further discussion, this meeting of the Hspb is adjourned to the meeting of February 1st, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Thanks to all of you for your participation today, and best wishes for the new year, and congratulations to Member Rose for his new acquisition. So thank you all and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.